In the last part, we have discussed about performance analysis. There we saw that there are two aspects of performance analysis. One is space complexity, another one is time complexity. Now, whichever complexity analysis you are doing for an algorithm, there has to have some way to represent those analysis or represent the result of those analysis, right? Now, for that purpose, asymptotic notation is used. Okay. So, in this lecture or in this part, uh, we are going to discuss about asymptotic notation. So, what is asymptotic notation? The word asymptotic means approaching a value or a curve arbitrarily closely to the exact one. So what we have, suppose we have a curve which is very complex. Very complex means the curve is very hard to mathematically represent it because it has involved so many factors in it, and hence it will be very hard for a human being to have the essence of the curve. Okay. So what we can have in that place, to get the nature of the exact curve, we can have another curve which is having very close value to that original curve, but is simple in nature. Simple in nature in terms of it can be represented by a mathematical expression without having so many factors involved, and uh, and hence it will also be easier for any human being to comprehend it. Okay. So in that case, the simple curve we are going to call as the asymptotic curve. Okay. So how we define it, a line or curve mu that is asymptotic to a given curve sigma is called the asymptote of sigma. So what it is telling, suppose we have an asymptotic curve. Okay. Or we have an exact curve like this one. So if you look at it, so this curve will be very hard to uh, to realize. Okay. Mathematically, this curve uh, uh, can involve so many factors that it will be very hard for an human being to realize. Now what can we have? We can have another, let us call this original curve as sigma, which is hard to realize. Now we can have another curve which will be having very closer value to the original curve, but that is not exact, and that is very simple compared to the original curve sigma, and let us call it as mu. So the curve mu is, as you can see in this picture, is having very close value to the original curve sigma, but uh, but uh, but it is having is much simpler to represent it mathematically as well as to understand it. Okay. So here sigma is an asymptotic to the sorry, here mu is asymptotic to sigma, and we are going to call mu as asymptote of sigma. Okay. Now, in the notion of asymptotic notation, we will have three kind of bounds. Okay, we will have asymptotically upper bounds, we will have asymptotically lower bound, and we will have asymptotically tight bound. So, what asymptotically upper bounds mean? Asymptotically upper bounds mean that the asymptote is going to give you uh, always higher, greater than or equals to value than the exact curve. Okay. So here in the picture that I have drawn, you can see that the asymptote mu is having always higher value than the exact curve sigma, right? So here in this example, mu is an asymptotically upper bound to sigma. Okay. Similarly, we can have asymptotically lower bound, or another kind of graph which is again having a closer value to the original curve sigma. Okay, but not exact value to the original curve sigma. Rather, uh, it is having closer value. Okay, but this curve is again simpler to represent in terms of mathematical expression, and also easier to understand. So let us call it as alpha. Okay, so now if you look at the curve alpha, it is also having a closer value to sigma, but not exact value as sigma. Uh, but it is always having lesser value or less than or equals to value than sigma, right? Alpha is always having less than or equals to value than sigma. So here we are going to call alpha is basically uh, giving you a lower bound of the giving you asymptotically lower bound for the exact curve sigma. Okay. Another kind of concept or bound we have, which is we are going to call asymptotically tight bound. But what we have here, so for the same curve, suppose we have another curve beta, and when beta is multiplied by one constant, so when beta is multiplied by one constant, it is giving you a lower bound curve, and when it is multiplied by another constant, it is giving you an upper bound curve. Okay, so for the same graph beta, okay, suppose this is your graph for beta. When it is multiplied with C1, it is giving you lower bound, and when it is multiplied with C2, okay, it is giving you a upper bound to the exact curve sigma. Okay, so in that case, we are going to tell that beta is giving you asymptotically tight bound to the exact curve sigma. So we are going to see in details about these bounds. But again, to remind that asymptotes are not exact. Okay, so this mu, alpha, beta, these curves are giving you closer value to sigma or closer value to the exact curve, but not exact value. So what is asymptotically upper bound? So asymptotically upper bound is represented by the notation or Greek letter big O. Okay, we also tell it as order of notation. So the asymptotically upper bound is formally defined as for a given function gn. For a given function gn, we denote order of gn as a set of function. So how the set is defined? So the order of gn is defined as a set of function fn such that there exist c and n0 belongs to z, means there exist two positive integers c and n0 such that 0 less than equals to fn less than equals to c into gn. Okay, for all n greater than n0. So it is telling that that uh, we are going to call I mean the set order of gn is going to going to have those functions happen for which it is giving the gn is giving you upper bound. Okay, so if you try to realize it, a graph representation or a pictorial representation will be a better one to understand. So suppose we have the function fn. Okay, so suppose we have the function fn over here as this one, and we will have the function gn multiplied with the constant given by this curve over here as this one. Okay, c into gn. Now as per the definition, it is telling that fn is order of gn if for the constant cn. Okay, for the constant cn, the cn multiplied sorry, for the constant c multiplied by gn is always having an value which is greater than or equals to the value given by the function fn. Okay, so in the curve you can see that gn multiplied by c is always having an higher value than fn, right? Once the value of n is greater than n0, greater than or equals to n0. So from that point, when n becomes n0, it means that in that region you can find that the curve c into gn is always above the curve fn, right? So we can tell in such scenario that gn is giving an asymptotically upper bound to the function fn. One point over here is that when n is less than n0, it might be possible that c into gn is having less value, or the curve c into gn is below the original curve fn. Okay, that might be possible when n less than n0. But as per the definition, after n becomes n0, or from the point n becomes m0, okay, from that point onwards you will always find that the function or c into gn is giving you an upper bound to the function fn. Okay, so this is how the asymptotically upper bound is defined. Okay, so if we take an example, if we ask that is 3n square minus 100n plus 6 is an upper bound of is upper bounded by order I mean n squared, or is 3n square minus 100n plus 6 is order of n squared? What do you think? So see, if you try to find out whether a function is upper bounded by another function, you have to find out these two constants c0, c and n0, for which this holds true. Okay, so if n squared is an upper bound of this function 3n square minus 100n plus 6, then you have to find out the value of c and n0 for which you can tell that okay, n square is giving us the upper bound. Okay. Now for this example, 3n squared minus 100n plus 6, if you try to think, you will always find that this n squared is going to give you upper bound if you consider the value of c is equals to 3 and n0 is equals to 1. Okay, because that will give you, I mean that will make the n square curve, I mean 3n squared will always be above 3n square minus 100n plus 6. Okay, once n becomes n0, right? So this is what asymptotically upper bound is. Next we are going to see asymptotically lower bound, or what is asymptotically lower bound. So asymptotically lower bound is represented by the Greek letter big omega, and is formally defined by this: for a given function gn, we denote big omega of gn as a set of function. How the set is defined? It is telling big omega of gn is equals to fn, or the functions such that there exist c and n0 two positive integer, right? Such that 0 less than equals to c into gn less than equals to fn for all n greater than n0. So if you try to compare it with the asymptotically lower bound, it is just the opposite, right? So only this inequalities changed, rest of the thing remains same, right? So what it is telling? It is telling that if a function gn is giving a lower bound to a function fn, then after a point n0, okay, or from the point n0 onwards, you will always find that some constant multiplied by gn is always having less value, less than or equals to value than fn. Okay, so if you try to understand or realize it using a graph, that will be a better one to comprehend. So what we have a function fn, right? We have a function fn, and we are having another curve gn multiplied by c. Okay, so this curve is given by this one. Okay, now you can see that after n becomes n0, or from the point n becomes n0, the value or the curve c into gn has never gone above fn, right? So c into gn has always been below the original curve fn. Okay, before n0 it might be possible that c into gn can be above fn, but after or from the point n0, c into gn is always below fn, right? So in that case we are going to tell that this gn function is giving you a lower bound. Okay, lower bound to the function fn. So we can write here like fn. So we can write like fn is equals to big omega of gn. Okay, this is what it means. Okay, so if you take the same example again, so is 3n square minus 100n plus 6 is omega of n squared? What do you think? So again the same thing, to prove that this is omega of n squared, you have to find out the two constants c and n0 for which this is going to hold true, right? So if you try to find out, you will find that yes, this is I mean this function 3n squared minus 100n plus 6 is going to be lower bounded by the function n squared if we consider the value of c as 2 and value of n0 greater than 100. So after any point of 100, if you consider the constant factor as 2, you will find that the 2n squared is giving you a lower bound for 3n squared minus 100n plus 6. Okay, and finally we are going to discuss about the asymptotically tight bound. So asymptotically tight bound is represented by the Greek letter big theta, and we are defining it as a given function gn. For a given function gn, we denote big theta of gn as a set of function. So how the set is defined? The set is defined as fn such that there exist constant c1, c2 and n0, three constant, okay, which are all of them are positive integers such that 0 less than c1 into gn, 0 less than equals to c1 into gn, less than equals to fn, less than equals to c2 into gn for all n greater than equals to n0. So after n0, when the function g1 is multiplied by constant c1, it is going to give you a lower bound, right? As per this definition, it is going to give fn a lower bound. But if the same function gn is multiplied by another constant c2, it is going to give you an upper bound as per the definition, right? So the same function gn is going to give the same function fn. One time it is a lower bound when multiplied by a constant, another time it is an upper bound when multiplied by some other constant. Okay, so if you try to realize it graphically, how it is going to look like. So after a point n becomes n0, okay, or from the point n becomes n0, from that point onward, what we will have? We will have that the function fn, I mean this one, is going to be a lower bound, going to be lower bounded by the function gn when multiplied by c1 constant. Okay, so c1 into gn is always having a value less than or equals to fn after n becomes n0, and the same function gn if multiplied by c2, it is going to have always value which is always greater than or equals to the value of fn after n becomes n0. Okay, prior to n0 anything can happen, but after n becomes n0 or from the point n becomes n0, what we have? We are having that c1 into gn is having always less value than fn, and c2 into gn is having always higher value than fn, right? So this definition of asymptotically tight bound, we can also define it in other way, in this way, like we can tell that fn is tight bounded or asymptotically tight bound by asymptotically tightly bound uh, by the another function gn if and only if fn is upper bounded by gn and fn is lower bounded by gn. Okay, so by the same function, it is once upper bounded for one constant and lower bounded for some other constant. So here you can see that the same function gn is lower bounded when multiplied with c1, and again the same function gn gives you an upper bound when multiplied by another constant c2. Okay, so if we again ask the same question, I mean if we take the same function, for example 3n square minus 100n plus 6, is it a tight I mean asymptotically tight bound for n square, or is 3n square minus 100n plus 6 is equal to big theta of n square? So without further analysis, you can tell yes, because we have already seen that that 3n squared minus 100n plus 6 is both upper bound and lower bounded by n squared, right? So you can so if you have to find out the value of c1, c2 and n0, you can find those value from the previous slide, and you can apply it over here and tell this that this is having a asymptotically tight bound. Okay, or 3n square minus 100n plus 6 gives you asymptotically tight bound by the n squared. Next we are going to focus some mathematics on asymptotic notation. We are generally will going to focus on the mathematics or the rules relating to the big O notation, because whenever you are going to do performance analysis of the algorithms, you will find that we are mainly focusing on the upper bounds, and we are mainly using the order of notation. The big theta notation or big omega notation are used, but very rare. In this slide, we are going to discuss about the asymptotic mathematics or mathematical rules uh, that are applied on the big O notation. Okay, so let us discuss by one. So the first one is addition rule. So if we have two functions, okay, or two big O notations, one is order of fn and another is order of gn, and if you try to multiply, if you try to perform an addition on them, so the resultant function will have order of maximum of fn and gn. It means that if you are having order of n, you have a function order of n, and you are trying to add it with another function which is order of n cube. Okay, which is order of n cube. So the resultant function of that addition will be order of n cube only. Okay, the maximum of these two. Okay, so this is the addition rule. Next, what we have? Next, we will have the multiplication rule. So it is telling that if a function is multiplied by a constant, the asymptotic notation is not going to be a change. Suppose we have a function f which is defined as uh, n plus 1. Okay, this is one function. Now if you so this is your order of, so if you try to find out the asymptotically upper bound for this function, you will find that this is order of n, right? Now if you multiply it with some constant, like suppose you multiply it with 3, so the function 3f f multiplied by 3 will have the value as 3n plus 3, right? So again, if you try to find out the asymptotic upper bound for this 3n plus 3, you will find that this will remain order of n. Okay, so if a function is multiplied by some constant, okay, the resultant function is going to, the asymptotic upper bound of the resultant function is will remain same. Okay, now in case of if a function, if two functions are multiplied, like order of fn multiplied by order of gn, then the resultant function will be order of fn into gn. What does it mean? Suppose you have one function f1, okay, which is defined by suppose n plus 1. Okay, it means that this is order of n, right? Now suppose you have another function f2, right, which is defined by n minus 1. Okay, so this is again order of n. Now if you multiply f1 and f2, what will happen? So if you multiply f1 into f2, right, then the resultant function will be given by n squared minus 1, right? N plus 1 into n minus 1 is n squared minus 1. So if you try to find out the asymptotic upper bound of this one, n squared minus 1, which is nothing but n squared, right? So that is order of n into order of n is equals to order of n squared. Okay, so this is what this rule says. Next is reflexivity. Fn is always upper bounded by itself, because if you multiply some positive integer with this fn, it is always going to give you the upper bound notation. Okay, so fn is always upper bounded by itself. Now transitivity, it is telling, this one is interesting. Suppose if fn is order of gn, means there is a function fn. Okay, suppose this is your fn, which is order of gn, means this is upper bounded by another function which we are going to call gn. Okay, so if fn is order of gn and gn is order of hn, so this function gn is again upper bounded by some another function hn. Okay, it means that, or it implies that fn is order of hn, means fn is going to be upper bounded by hn. Okay, so if a function is so if fn is upper bounded by gn and gn is again upper bounded by hn, then fn is going to be upper bounded by hn as well. So this is what we call transitivity. And in transpose symmetry, what we have, it is telling that is if fn is order of gn, means so if fn is of order of gn means, so you will have a function fn which is basically upper bounded by another function gn, right? It is possible if and only if gn is lower bounded by fn. So right, so if fn is upper bounded by gn, then obviously gn has to be lower bounded by fn. Okay, so this is what the transpose symmetry rule tells us. Okay, so with this we come to an end to the discussion of asymptotic notation. In the next part, we are going to see improving performance. Means if there are some algorithms, is there a way that we can improve the performance of those algorithms? For some algorithms we can do, and how we're going to see.